All right, welcome to America's Mom. We're going to be taking a look at the Election Truth event, Colorado State Assembly. We get to talk with Representative Ron Hanks, who cleared the entire field, making way for the U.S. Senate race to end in his victory.
I don't gotta wait no more, chasing after things that they just can't tell you. Tell me I don't wait no more, seen it all change and I know that's for you. Tell me not to wait too long, I don't gotta wait when I make this for you. Tell them not to wait too long, you don't gotta wait when you let fate guide you. Wake up.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to America's Mom. This is our first official week of our new show coming to you everywhere in America. We're going to keep bringing you the same great stories of small town Americans who are doing incredible things to preserve and protect their own backyards. It's going to be such a great time. I think that this week especially, as we bring a couple of really, really important stories from a state that everybody believed was gone. There was going to be no recovery, no way back. Just try to find a way to live in the new Colorado. Jokingly, we always call it the People's Republic of Colorado because it's been under siege for at least the last 3 years under Pontiff Polis. But we have such a great story to bring to you guys this week of what's happening because people just like you have decided we've had enough. Rhinos and establishment elites everywhere are purchasing massive amounts of duct tape today to wrap their swollen heads over the idea that America First candidates not only can win in Colorado, but sweep the entire deck. Representative Ron Hanks cleared the entire field for the U.S. Senate race, being the number one by 39% of the vote, the people's choice, and is going to do an incredible job throughout the primary. In addition to that, the Colorado State Assembly had an incredible victory for Clerk Tina Peters, known as America's favorite clerk. She's the one who's been standing up for election truth. She revealed the mishappenings in Mesa County with the Dominion voting machines, and she was met with a rousing response. People are so excited to have people of courage and tenacity and strength and a backbone. And so here we are. We're going to have a great show for you guys today, starting with Representative Ron Hanks of Colorado, who is running for U.S. Senate after an incredible upset at the Colorado State Assembly, where he cleared the entire field, coming out as the only candidate for the U.S. Senate race here in Colorado. Representative Hanks is with us today. Winner takes all candidate. House District Representative 60, Mr. Ron Hanks, who swept the entire U.S. Senate race on Saturday at the GOP State Assembly. How are you, Representative Hanks?
Hi, Sherronna. I'm doing real good. It was a pretty convincing victory. We're pleased with it. We move on now to the next phase, and we're happy to be doing that alone.
Well, you know, Representative Hanks, I had flyers from Gino Campiana's campaign, Deborah Flora's campaign. I mean, everybody was just was expecting Gino to just rise to the top and take over the whole thing. And he ended up actually coming in almost last, almost dead last in this race on Saturday. Not to mention Eli Bremer, who is pegged as the Olympic champion. He was endorsed by so many elected officials in Colorado. Gino was touting a potential Trump endorsement along with Alveda King, Dr. Alveda King. And you really are the people's choice. You are the one that the people rallied around. How do you take all of this when you see all the drama and excitement that was playing out with those other candidates, but when it came down to the nuts and bolts of Saturday and what's been happening in the ground game across Colorado, the people were there for you?
Yeah, we looked at it just a little bit differently, Sharona. I mean, we did not focus on endorsements or spending a lot of money because caucus is all about grassroots and getting out into the districts, into the counties. Now, I will tell you, it was a bit of a challenge doing that, being in the state house and being in session. But we still managed to get out. And I will also say that Friday was probably a very decisive day for a lot of people. The day before the assembly, there were quite a few Senate and House and congressional assemblies at a nearby location. And we had a lot of people come by our hospitality room. And here's the thing that we found very interesting. People were very interested in long conversations. They would sit in the room for an hour or an hour and a half and just kind of reminded me of the old Mark Twain town halls. Remember from 100 years, 150 years ago.
I read about it.
I think people are ready for dialogue rather than just diatribe, and I know that sounds a little like I lifted that from Jesse Jackson. That just came to me. But I mean, I think longer speech really makes a difference. But also, I was pretty proud not to do the endorsement route because to me, it seemed, Sherronna, that every minute you spent dealing with somebody on the phone from out of state trying to get an endorsement was an opportunity lost to talk with somebody here in rural Colorado or in the Front Range, for that matter.
Well, and for those who are just hearing about this incredible race, this was a very, very heated race for sure. And there are a lot of great candidates, but what really sets you apart in the minds of Coloradans is, number one, you spent 32 years in the U.S. Air Force in intelligence, working around the globe. You're very versed in working with other cultures, and this idea of foreign policy is not new to you. You know exactly where you stand. As a mom, I have watched you fight for parents and stand up for our rights to defend our children and to do what we think is best. In Colorado, there's been this push that you have to move more center left as a Republican. You haven't done that. And you're proving that that's not necessary, number one, to win, but also to sleep well at night.
Yeah, I have never liked the advice of the political consultants and the elite that you go right in the primary and then you go to the center. I say you stay who you are, and if your message is right, and and if you tell it true, people will recognize what's in your heart. The downside of what we are dealing with right now is that the country is really in turmoil and in trouble. And I think there's a lot of people out there who would not otherwise be looking at politics that are starting to figure out, my God, this is a problem, and we have to look to see who will solve it. They know full well that Biden and Michael Bennett are not getting the job done. And so even if they haven't been real conservative Republicans, I think they're coming our way because we offer a very different set of solutions. And frankly, Sherronna, the thing that strikes me is these are not problems where the solutions are difficult to figure out. I mean, fuel prices are way too high. We have all the fuel and oil and gas we would ever need for hundreds of years under our feet. So let's drill for it, and I did a little fracking. I know we are environmentally conscientious and we can do this without destroying our environment. I mean, that's a simple solution, and I can't fathom why the left isn't, they're so stuck in their dogma that they won't do the common sense things. We're common sense.
I just got back from Texas, Representative Hanks, and they had Jack's Pumping Oil right there in their front yards. It was a beautiful sight to see. And I thought about how, in comparison, these ugly solar fields that are taking up our vacant lands out here in Colorado, the wind turbines that are butchering our bald eagles, and they produce no energy. We have to buy our energy now from New Mexico, or we buy it somewhere else. Right. And yet Colorado keeps moving this progressive leftist direction that literally will make it so expensive we can't heat our homes and we can't drive our cars. As a U.S. Senator, this is really your realm. This is where you're helping to determine national policy that prevents these political moves that are really designed to get free money from the government. These ideas of all of the above energy acts or Green New Deal plans that will give them a lot of money is something you're going to have to combat. And I think the confidence that the people displayed in you at the state assembly this past week, there was one who was not willing to stand before the people and be voted in at assembly, and that is going to be your opponent who's running as a Republican during this primary. And we don't even have to say his name, but what does it mean for you heading into the primary? You've got an opponent that you're going to be facing, and wouldn't face the people, wouldn't face the assembly, instead chose to petition on. What message do you have for those who are going to be voting for you, who are listening right now, trying to make up their minds of who they want? He's been endorsed by the police Police Association of Colorado. What do you have to say about that situation?
Well, I appreciate the question. I mean, it was a decisive victory at Assembly, and I would posit that had this guy who has gone on and petitioned on to the primary, had he been in that race, he would have been defeated as well. And I say that with all humility, but I mean, now that we see the numbers, I think, I knocked out five other candidates, some good candidates among them, and Joe would have probably been the sixth, and then it would have been a open season all the way to November to fight Michael Bennett. We'll probably work it that way anyway, as if this primary is largely, a fait accompli here. But I think knocking out everybody at the assembly is important because it sends a message around the nation that we didn't pick two people and that we still have to figure out where we stand in Colorado. We have a pretty decisive margin who understand that election integrity matters. And now I'm starting to pivot from the state legislature where I introduced election integrity bills to the federal side of this whole mission, which is national security. I've done what I can at the state level. Now I'm going to work on national security, the borders, our energy, our manufacturing that ought to be back in America. I lost my voice over the weekend, and it just tried to go out on me there. I apologize. So
it must have been all that hollering, because it certainly was a sweet victory. Now, the latest Magellan poll in Colorado says that the Republican that wins will be the next United States Senator from Colorado. I have no doubt at all that that will be you, Representative Hanks. Where can our people find you and make a hefty donation to your campaign? You are going to be up against a leftist who is well funded by the Biden administration and all that entails. So where can we find you and where can we support you?
Well, I appreciate that. My website is Hanks for Colorado. That's FOR Colorado.com. And we've got some good content on there as far as videos, as far as letters I've written to Joe Biden as a state representative after the disgraceful exit from Afghanistan. And I guess it was on the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So it was an emotional moment for me to watch what that just abject failure of a departure. And I felt for the Vietnam vets that were there. That's a letter I'd encourage people to read. And then they can find me out around the state here. As soon as the session is over, we're going to hit all the counties that we could not hit, and we'll hit them thoroughly and for a long time. One last thing, Sherronna, I don't know how much time I have, but I have to tell you, we live in a beautiful state here in Colorado, but I have just been totally decimated by the amount of trash we've got blowing around on the freeways, on the side roads. And, we're thinking about going out to the different counties and starting a campaign where before we get into a town hall, we start picking up trash by the bagful for an hour or 2 hours and start trying to clean this up. Because, this is what socialism looked like in Eastern Europe when I was over there, is we just, we can't let it look like that, where we don't care about the state and the country anymore. So in addition to my website, they'll see me on the side of the road picking up some trash, because this is driving me nuts here.
Well, Representative Hanks, I'm looking forward to seeing you take out the trash in Colorado of Michael Bennett.
Well,
Can't wait. Thank you so much for being with us today. And again, where can we find you? HanksForColorado.com?
Yes, ma'am. HanksForColorado.com. And thank you for the moment to talk with you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Representative. Colorado State Assembly. More votes cast than voters, using electronic machines that were retired in 2021, denying delegates the right and opportunity to publicly make their concerns known regarding this really serious issue. How out of touch can the Colorado GOP be? Well, it gets worse. The Colorado State Assembly started with a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and 3 hours of standing outside waiting to be let in, even though at the Colorado Springs World Arena there are multiple doors. In fact, I came into a separate set of doors because I wasn't going to stand out there for 3 hours and wait. No way. So they couldn't pull that together. We ended up starting an hour late. In addition to that, these people were herded through just the one set of doors, and once the assembly actually got underway, there was definitely an air of ballots. Paper ballots versus the machine clickers. Now, as I already expressed, the clickers had been retired in 2021, and they kept trying to tell us this is so great, this is going to be wonderful, it's so easy, you can track your votes, you can do all these things, and the people just weren't having it. When you have the elections being the primary focus and the primary concern of the most informed voters in Colorado, there's no way you can hand them a machine and just tell them to trust you when paper ballots are on site and the hand count has been expressly defined as the only way that these constitutional conservative delegates will go. It was so out of touch, you guys. People were hollering, they were chanting. At one point, when a motion was being made to switch to the paper ballots, they would not provide a microphone to the delegate making the request. The whole stadium starts erupting, microphone, microphone, microphone. And finally, the chair, Christy Burton Brown, was forced to hand a microphone to the delegate making the motion to go from using these machines to the paper ballots. Now, what was just so untoward and just so wrong was the fact that the chair, Christy Burton Brown of the GOP, said there were no paper ballots on site. We would be there until midnight and nobody would know who their candidate was for at least a month. All false. In fact, the ballots were all on site, required actually by law that paper ballots be provided. But a certain group had already done the watermarking. They had already provided everything that was necessary in order to secure a hand count paper ballot election. What really makes the machines especially grievous is that they were shipped in at 4 a.m. in the morning with no actual knowledge of a chain of custody. Again, this is why people are so upset. The political elite tells us just take it, swallow it, shut up, sit down, and we'll pat your head while we're at it. And you know, quite frankly, the people are now just looking at them and saying, what's up with that?
It was hard times living in a system that was too scared to share the truth and make a difference. I was sitting in ambition, then I saw the vision. I would multiply the love and subtract the division. And I'm not a mathematician, but it didn't add up. Praising politicians when they try to mask us. They say they're about the science, but they fake the data. They say they're gonna save us, but they really lab rat us. I don't really want to blindfold.
With gas being at over $5 a gallon under the Biden regime, it's no wonder that people are ready to take charge. In Colorado this last week, we held an election truth event because all of this has to do with the reality that elections have consequences. And if people are being selected rather than elected, well, the people have had enough of that. Watch and see what happened at the People's House in Denver, Colorado just this past week, when Mr. Mike Lindell flew out to encourage the Patriots of Colorado to keep going.
For such a time as this, I mean, come on. If it isn't integrity, we cannot give up. Colorado, America belongs to the people of America. Amen? And this is our time. There is no defeat. There is only winning during this time. And I say we are winners.
Friends, the left-wing political establishment and the media have been lying to the American people.
I'm an example of how somebody can go from keeping quiet to having courage.
The government that's running this country has put a lot of fear in people. In fact, this morning as I was driving here, I received a notice from an IT worker in a county in Colorado. The Secretary of State had sent out a message saying, be wary of those domestic terrorists who are questioning elections today. I kid you not. Secretary of State Jenna Griswold, we will not be bullied into silence.
You have all these things that has shown up now that we wouldn't have known about. We know about crooked platforms that are out there, from Zuckerberg's Facebook to Twitter and all these platforms. We've found all this out. God's just been revealing things one after another, to the point of just 4 days ago, they did a poll. 35 or 34% of Democrats now believe the election was stolen and through machines.
Latino entrepreneurs make their voices heard in any election, community effort, or opportunity, they can ensure that lawmakers are responsive to the needs of the community. When the next disaster hits, a sense of urgency, issues, anything, I have seen Latinos come together and make a difference. We need to reach that District 8, 40%, 22% Latinos in Colorado, and a lot of business owners and women business owners that I see every day that are ambitious, strong, but with values, with morals, with family, with passion, with courage. People that are willing to listen if we just go find them and encourage them and tell them the truth.
Under Barack Obama, they lied about the National Security Administration spying on America. They lied about Benghazi. They lied about Russian collusion and Donald Trump. They lied when they said they didn't actually spy on Donald Trump's campaign. They lied about the border. You remember they lied about Hunter Biden's laptop and about his purchasing of foreign influence. Forgive me if I remind you. They lied about the origins of COVID-19. They lied about gain-of-function testing and about so-called vaccines. They lied about Planned Parenthood and sold human body parts. They lied about Black Lives Matter and peaceful riots. They lied about critical race theory, and they've lied about the real agenda behind the wicked LGBT movement. Over and over again, anyone who called them out on their lies is labeled a conspiracy theorist, or a hater, or a racist, or a spreader of misinformation. Those who've stood for truth have been ridiculed, shadow banned, censored, even persecuted by politicized law enforcement agencies. But probably worst of all, they have lied about election integrity. And I say worst of all because if we don't have election integrity, we no longer have a republic. We have a dictatorship.
When we returned to school, they put the kids in hula hoops to keep them social distanced. There were stickers on the wall and on the floor to keep, and I'm an elementary teacher, to keep the kids separated. It was so disturbing. So my message today is let's get more people involved, people like me. We need more people to help get conservative school board candidates elected. And if you don't know who the teachers union is, they are basically the devil. They have run the schools for all the years that we weren't paying attention, and I confess, me too, I wasn't paying attention. But it's time that we take our schools back, and I need y'all. We need you. We need you to show up to school board meetings.
And here's the reality of this situation. What I've done, what you're doing, is exactly what our founders hoped we would do to preserve this country. Because we do not give consent to be governed this way. We're a constitutional republic, which means the government works for us. Along with destroying energy, this governor's decided to turn wolves loose in our backyard. All right, they couldn't restrict the ranchers by limiting how many cows they could haul on the highway. So instead, they let the wolves out. Tell me how that makes our state better. Tell me how that feeds families. Tell me how that keeps our generational farms and ranches going. They are killing our state. One bad policy at a time. And so we've gathered today because we realize that elections have consequences. Selections are having greater consequences. And so we've asked the question of our government, are these elections legitimate? Well, If our governor tries to position himself as a moderate libertarian, tell me why he had just passed the most radical infanticide bill ever. He has approved of legislation now to kill the most innocent among us. But he'll hide it behind a woman's right to choose. You know, there's that saying, weak men, right? Weak men create tough times. But tough times create strong men. And I would say strong mothers. Strong mothers. It is our time right now.
Well, then what did they do? They planned the January 6th. The January 6th thing, which they put fear into everybody. Everybody. When you woke up on January 7th, that's the day, one of the most important days that'll be in history. And that day is the day they tried to take our voices away forever. Forever. They took our president's Twitter. They took his Twitter account. 1.2 million Americans got deplatformed that day. From Zuckerberg's Facebook to YouTube, evil Vimeo, Twitter. The list goes on and on and on. Fox went Fox on us. Even the rotten media, the left media, all went silent on me. They went completely silent. They didn't talk. Nobody wanted to talk about anything, even though I wanted to talk. And they, on January 9th then, something happened on January 9th where I was given evidence that explained one thing. And I want to tell you this. I put millions of dollars in that November and December last year of my own investigation. And I thought, you know, you had all these deviations. You had all these things that happened, like, you know, all these non-residents that voted in every state for the first time ever. And I go, people are genuinely good people. They're not going to march across from my state of Minnesota into Wisconsin and thousands of people vote and commit crimes. I said, it doesn't make sense. Well, then on January 9th, I got some evidence that explained it all, because it was a cyber attack through our machines, through electronics. And people to wrap their head around that, it happens every day. It happens every day in our country. So you get it. This is the world we're in, the computer world we're in. When you get an attack on credit cards or MyPillow, we get an attack, or a store or a pipeline. That's just, when that happens, you have good geeks and bad geeks. The good geeks over here, they fix it and they put more protection on the computers. And then over here, it starts all over again. The attacks start all over again. But if they break through, it only costs us money, everybody. That's only money. But when they do it in an election, you lose your country forever. Forever. You never get it back. Yeah, but by the grace of God, we have one chance in history to get our country back. And what happened over this last, as you all know, this last year, many miracles have happened that were found out. As I stand here before you, what if we had nothing? We have everything right now. I came to Colorado today because you have here in Colorado the key to the whole nation, because you had a great county clerk, Tina Peters, that did her job. And she took a backup of her Dominion machines, of her computers, before your crooked Secretary of State and Dominion came in with the trust to build and deleted the 2020 election. Okay? And I'm telling you, if the election of 2020 didn't happen, we would never, ever, ever have gotten to this great place we're going to get to. Trust me on that. Ever. This was all God's plan, and we are in the greatest revival for Jesus in history. God bless you all, and thank you. Thank you.
Patriots, we are living in a time like no other, where your voice means more than it ever has before. I want to encourage you to stand up. Do not be silent. Do not go quietly in the dark and let the political elites determine your future, your child's future, and the future of this great country. Remember, all that is necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. God bless you, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you Wednesday.
'Cause I don't gotta wait no more, chasing after things that they just can't tell you. Tell me I don't